Well, October has been the deadliest month for Americans in Afghanistan since our troops first arrived there 8 years ago. 56 of our troops have been killed in action just this past month, bringing the total number of deaths to 887 since the war began in 2001. That does not include the more than 4,400 wounded in action. Now, to his credit, the president honored some of the fallen soldiers as their caskets arrived at Dover Air Force Base earlier this week. He's mulling his decision over whether or not to send up 40,000 additional forces that his commanders on the ground in Afghanistan have asked for. Does he need to act now? Let's ask retired Major General and Fox News military analyst Bob Scales and Republican Congressman Peter Hoekstra, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Let's talk about this very serious issue, and that is that we are in Afghanistan. And General, I want to begin with you from a military perspective. Sure. General McChrystal, this is President Obama's personal selection. He himself said this is the war we need to be fighting. Is this taking an unusually and unfair amount of time for him to act on the general's request? Well,
you know, I'm a soldier.
Yes.
I'm also a historian, and we always talk about dream teams. And I guess the classic dream team during wartime was when George C. Marshall and Dwight Eisenhower and Omar Bradley steered us to victory in Europe. Probably a close second place is the uniform leadership that we have today. You've got Admiral Mike Mullen, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dave Petraeus, already won one war, and of course Stan McChrystal, who knows more about counterinsurgency than any living general. So you have a dream team, and given their advice to the president, and they've done it, I believe, in a respectful and forthright manner. And the other issue, to your point, exactly right, Governor, the clock is ticking. Remember now, the snows begin to melt in Afghanistan at the end of March and beginning of April. The enemy has the initiative. He's going to be on the battlefield whether we're there or not. And so the time is coming close over the next couple of weeks when the president's got to make a decision, come up with a number, put those troops in a deployment mode and get them on the ground, boots on the ground, ready to start the campaign and take the initiative back from the enemy beginning in April of next year.
Yeah, you don't just say, let's get 40,000 troops and they start landing tomorrow. There is a logistical buildup.
But let me tell you, there's another thing. There's also a family impact of this as well. Remember now, you have wives and loved ones at places like Fort Hood and Fort Bragg and other places who are waiting for the next shoe to drop. They want to know when their loved ones, because it's not so much the time that their loved ones spend on deployment. It's the uncertainty. And the families just want to know, what's the mission, what's the strategy, when is my loved one going to be deployed, and when are they going to come home?
In a few minutes, I'm going to come back to you and talk about what is the mission, what is it we're going to see when we have accomplished victory. But Congressman, I want you to react to something. This is President Obama in March of this year when he was talking about Afghanistan. I want you to get your response after we watch this.
I want the American people to understand that we have a clear and focused goal: to disrupt, dismantle, and defeat al-Qaeda in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and to prevent their return to either country in the future. That's the goal that must be achieved. That is a cause that could not be more just.
The President says it's a just cause. Congressman, tell me your reaction to what you hear the President say. This was March. Now we're here in really the beginning of November.
Well, I think what we saw in March was exactly what we needed to see. We needed to see a president that was leading, speaking with conviction, laying out the goal and the mission, then picking out his general. So he picked out the strategy, he picked out his general, and it's kind of like, okay, let's go. Now his general has come back to him, or his general came back to him in August and said, I've looked at your mission and your strategy that you gave me to do. Here's what I need to get that strategy done to be successful. And now this president is having second thoughts. He said it was a war of necessity. Now he's unwilling to give his general what's necessary to win this war. You know, this is going to be a very, very tough fight. The president not only needs to demonstrate to our troops, but to the American people and our allies that he is fully committed to winning. And if he's not, you know, then we've got to step back. We've got young men, our young men and women are overseas. They're in harm's way. They need to see leadership and they need to see conviction. And right now they're not seeing it. They're seeing indecision.
I want to get reactions to you. You actually have read a classified report. When we come back after the break, we're going to get both of you to act in or weigh in on some of the things that I've been waiting to hear. And you're going to want to hear, too, more with General Scales and Congressman Hoekstra right after this break. Stay with us. We were talking before. General, I said I wanted to ask you, what does a victory look like in Afghanistan? You've been there. I've been there. I went away from there saying, my gosh, what do you do here?
things: security, security, and security. Everything spins out of security in Afghanistan.
Is that related to the election, or what does security look like in Afghanistan?
Security is regaining control of the cities, gaining the initiative away from the enemy. Look, Thomas Jefferson is not going to show up tomorrow with a turban on just to take over the government in Afghanistan. What the Afghans want is the same thing we want, and that is as much security as they can possibly have in that country, secure from the tyranny of the Taliban. Will democracy follow? Maybe, I don't know. But what everybody wants to know, or wants in Afghanistan first and foremost, is to be able to go to bed at night and not worried about being killed by the Taliban.
But in the tribal setting, and it's so different than a Western culture.
Right, right.
Is that achievable? And the Soviets found out that this is not an easy place to wage a war.
Right. Security in Afghanistan comes from the bottom up. It doesn't come from the top down. It's gaining security in villages, in village by village by village. You know, every village is separated by these high-walled mountains, and the villages, when you visit these villages, it's like being in the first century B.C. Mm-hmm. So the security comes from the bottom up. And so, in my view at least, the thing that's important is a counterinsurgency program that's going to last a long time, but you don't run counterinsurgencies on the cheap. It's manpower intensive, it needs boots on the ground, and it patience. Patience. And the real question is, are we willing to commit the manpower, and do we have the patience to see this thing through?
Now, Congressman, we were talking about the health care bill, how very few people read it. Very few people have read the classified report that General McChrystal put forth. You actually read the whole thing. Right. Now, I know you can't tell us all the classified stuff. There was a redacted version of the Washington Post. But what is in that report from General McChrystal that you can tell us that we ought to know that you would like for the President to act upon?
Well, I think it's very clear what, even from the non-classified versions that have come out, we're not doing well in Afghanistan. We're losing ground. Every day we're losing ground. What's the general wants is he wants clarity as to mission, and he says time is of the essence. I want a strategy, and then I want the resources to carry out the mission. It's very, very hard. And what we're seeing right now, the President's not leading. You know, he hasn't led on North Korea. He hasn't led on Iran. He hasn't led on Russia. He's been unwilling to take the tough decisions necessary to protect America. I'm afraid he's going to do the same thing in Afghanistan. He's not going to give the general what he needs to get the job done.
Wars aren't won by half measures. Wars aren't like the health care bill where compromise is important. Because remember, in wars, the enemy has a vote. It's a two-sided game. And if you compromise and the enemy doesn't, guess what happens? You lose.
Yeah. And that's what I think I hear both of you fearing. We're not saying the President has done that yet, but that if we do not give the military what they're asking for, and they're asking for what they know they need to win, then we, in essence, have made a decision that we're not going to win. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, and it's not the military in the larger picture. It's our individual men and women who are on the ground. You either give them the resources to do the job, or you have to do something else. You can't put them in an unclear mission with a lack of resources and a lack of commitment to follow through. That's unfair to them. We can't ask them to put their lives on the line if we're not willing to give them what they need.
Amen.
Thank you very much. General Bob Scales, Congressman Pete Hoekstra. Does your dog have any habits that leave you scratching your head? Has he ever done something that has you asking yourself, what in the world is that dog thinking? We're going to find out exactly what he's thinking next. Don't go away. You're going to love this segment, I promise you.